Now, Airports Company South Africa has urged travellers to check flights availability before heading out to airports. This as some flights are not operational due to the international travel ban on South Africa and its neighbouring countries. Travellers have been left frustrated as many try to get to their destinations. Let's speak to Terence, who is in charge of operations at ACSA SA. Terence, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Omicron has in fact plunged the country into panic, but travellers are most worried. What is the latest communique around travellers? What should they do?
Mfundo, thank you very much. It has been a real difficult situation since the ban imposed on South Africa from Friday. Obviously, it's put passengers that are wanting to leave the country into almost a state of panic. So we've had many passengers that have made their way to our airports, in particular OR Tambo International Airport and Cape Town International Airport. Obviously, those passengers hoping to get onto a flight and get them back home. But as we know, many of the international carriers have suspended or cancelled their flights due to the ban that's now being imposed on South Africa. So essentially, we've had passengers come to the airport and trying to get information from airlines and from whatever sources they can. So we're urging these passengers to obviously make contact with the airlines, and the airlines have really been quite proactive in that they've been communicating with their passengers through the different platforms, either directly with passengers or through the social media platforms. But I guess in a time like this, people are really so stressed that, the thought is that rather come to the airport and see whether we can get onto a flight. But effectively, you can't for those international guests that are wanting to leave the country. So we'd still urge people to please continue to make contact with the airlines, understand what is happening, and then make their way to the airport. So we've had a situation where we had to deal with and really try and assist people. I mean, it's a difficult situation for those passengers. We understand that. So we've been trying our level best just to facilitate the communication with airlines. Some of the airports, in particular Cape Town, has had good support from the provincial tourism agencies, the provincial economic development agencies, the provincial government, and also the embassies are quite key. And they were assisting us physically at the airport to provide information to these travellers. And similarly at OR Tambo as well, we had passengers that had been stranded, and some of them actually stayed over at the airport last night, and we had to deal with that and try and accommodate that. Fortunately, this morning, a number of them have managed to leave. They've obviously rebooked some accommodation. And essentially what will be happening now is that airlines would and countries would then during the course of next week, confirm what the plan is to actually get these passengers back to their home countries, either in the form of charter flights, repatriation flights, and we again urge those passengers to make contact with the airlines involved, and also if they're really feeling stranded, to get hold of their embassies as well. Obviously, when they are at the airport, we will try our very best to facilitate and help with the communication.
So what happens in the instance of a traveller who actually went out of their way to get this information if the airline is in fact travelling? And then we've heard of one instance in particular where one South African couldn't get on a plane back to the US where he lives. And this was something where it was somewhat bizarre, because here he lives in the US and states that even his children are there, but for some reason the plane left without him. Could this be the fate of many in coming days, and what form of recourse do they have?
Well, certainly, in a situation like this, let's be honest, it's happened so quickly. There's so many variables in this equation of different things happening. And I think it's a difficult situation for airline staff, for embassies and obviously for the passengers as people are trying to understand what would happen. And to be quite honest with you, in a situation like this, the airline is probably best positioned to advise those passengers in terms of what is required. Obviously, airlines would have to take the cue from the regulations and the legislation that their base countries are actually putting into place, and it's to actually get that information and communicate it to the passenger in time is really a difficult situation, and therefore we got to just find all manners of communication to affected people. And Mfundo, there would be various scenarios, different variables, different people will be impacted in different ways. So we have to be able to find a solution for each of these individuals that are impacted.
So I take it now it's a case by case.
Are quite key.
I take it it's a case by case in this instance, because one would assume there should be some form of recourse for this gentleman, because he's not just a holiday traveller. He resides in the US, but he was denied entry onto that plane purely by being South African. And now he has since gone to the police station, but we don't know how much the police can actually assist in this respect. The plane has left, and he is a resident in the US. So are you saying there's absolutely no form of recourse, because this is just a fluid situation where we're all just trying to figure out what's happening and awaiting the president to actually give the final word on where we are and which level of the lockdown we're going to be placed under?
Listen, to a large extent, whilst it's fluid, I think I would like to say the majority of the situation would be pretty clear, is where we're having residents and citizens of their countries wanting to go back, and that arrangement has to be made by the airline and the embassy. We are going to get deviations to that rule, and on this particular case that you're mentioning, one has to go and investigate the details, but it's important to know that particular airline would need to be contacted, and the airline would need to provide some answers to that passenger.
And then beyond this point, are the airports operational for travel to any other country beyond the ones that have banned South Africans?
No, sure. Our airports remain operational, and it's a difficult time in that our business is based on people coming to our airports. Tourism industry, the hospitality industry, and all of those support industries, it's so essential. So our airport remains fully open, but I need to emphasize remaining open with the full COVID protocols that are in place. So we just urge everybody coming to the airport to please respect those protocols. What we are finding, though, is that there are a number of countries that have now actually, are restricting South Africans from traveling. So essentially, as a South African, there's not too many places we can travel to at this point in time. Again, quite a fluid situation. As we speak, we get more information about what countries are doing. We've obviously heard now the US has also imposed those bans. And yes, so we'll be open to obviously facilitate our domestic travel, and those airlines that do remain open and are still operating, we are there open to facilitate that.